We've done over 150 million cash collected from just spending money on ads, and this is my CMO, Spencer.
Blaming the trust recession for your ads not working is like one of the lamest excuses.
You just run a bad business.
Yes. But like, just because someone buys a $27 product doesn't mean they're going to buy a $10,000 product. But then we're just like, dude, we just put in all this effort. Let's just scale our funnel. We have clients that make 3, 4, 5 million a month with that funnel. So like, it can absolutely work.
We shouldn't even tell people this.
Yeah.
It's so easy to copy.
I know.
Hey, so before we get into the podcast, today's actually a very special day. So I'm here with the CEO, Spencer Vaughn of Saleskick. And essentially, we've released something that is going to really revolutionize the industry in terms of sales ops and sales processes. And so if you want to check out what that is, you can click the link in the description. You'll see all about it. It's one of the coolest things. We've been working on it for how long?
2 years.
2 years. So this is something that I am just so freaking excited about for our industry. And it's going to help you decrease your cost per book call, increase your show rate, and so much more. So click the link below, check it out. Now we'll get to the podcast. So we've done over 150 million cash collected from just spending money on ads. And this is my CMO, Spencer, for closers and also business partner with Saleskick. We'll get into that later. So what we want to talk about is what's really working now with marketing. So we're going to go through what's working funnel-wise, what's working offer-wise, what's working media buying strategy, what's working creative-wise, and what's working show rate-wise. And so we're going to start with funnels, and I want you to give me a funnel tier list. So I'm going to give you the funnel, and you're going to give me S tier through F tier.
Yes. Okay.
So the first one is the good old where I got started back in the day, group funnel.
Oh, dude. Well, the traditional sense of a group funnel being on Facebook, it's whatever's below an F tier. Like whatever's below that, that's where the traditional one is. Tier. You know, I mean, there are some people having some success, obviously, with like a paid school or a free school group funnel with ads. I still, you know, in order to have that work, you need a dialed in, you know, setting team. You need good high ticket offer. And I just don't think it's the most optimal way. Like you'll see as we go through this, I prioritize simplicity over everything else because if you have something that's simple, it's going to be easier to scale than if you don't.
Right.
So, I mean, I would say it's probably like the school version of it's probably a C tier from ads. Obviously, organic's totally
different. But you're talking paid, so that actually is low ticket, which is totally different.
Yeah.
But even free from ads, school funnel, I don't think I tried it on Sam's behalf because he asked me to. This was in like when school first started. I was like, I'm going to validate the free school funnel. And we had a struggle with it. Now it could work better now because there's more network effect in school. Yeah. Back then, nobody was using school. Yeah. Like we were one of the first people even on the platform. Yeah. I would give it an F tier as well. Yeah. I already have my grades, but I'm going to let you grade it first. All right. I'm excited. The DM ads funnel.
I think in certain niches it's okay. I mean, it's certainly a way to get to your first 50K a month. Like fitness, very popular in fitness. Getting past 50 to 100K a month, extremely challenging, and everybody gets stuck. Like 70 to 100K a month. So I think, you know, if you're starting out, probably C to B tier. If you're trying to get past 100K a month and like build a consistent business and actually scale something, probably lower, probably like D tier.
Yeah, I put C tier because it is good for certain niches, like you said, who maybe your messaging is not as dialed in. Yeah. So you can kind of make it up through the conversation to get your first 50, maybe 100 grand a month. Yeah. I've never seen anybody scale it really to like 250, to be honest.
It's basically
but it is a good, like, just to get your ads working, and then it sets you up for another funnel we're going to talk about next, which is, I know one of your favorite, the app funnel. Which is, by the way, just add right to the application.
Yes,
right.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's so simple. It's funny, I talked about this yesterday at the event. It just allows you to focus on the most important parts of getting something to ads to work, which is like having a great offer, extremely important, obviously, dialing that in. Having an excellent ad, like also overlooked, because if you have, for example, the DM funnel or the other funnels I'm sure we're going to talk about, it's easy to get confused and focus on other parts of it when the funnel is not working because there's so many moving parts. But that funnel, it's just like ad, application, sales call. Mm-hmm. Pretty hard to not focus on the right thing.
Yes.
So I think legitimately we still use this.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know? It's definitely A tier.
Yeah.
And I would say there's two parts of it. There's either a direct messaging app funnel where that's the classic. You just state the offer, you state, you just follow like a very direct, like the first line is the offer, and then it's a lot of proof, and then supporting stuff on the offer. And then it works really well because it's just so low friction, and it really makes sure your ads work first. The other way you could do it that we do it is app funnel indirect to direct, but all in the ad, right? Where you're starting with maybe a messaging that's not, it's a hook or it's content driven or whatever. But then after about like 30 seconds in a video ad equivalent, you're pivoting to something that sounds like, so if that sounds interesting to you, here's my offer to you, So that's a way you can actually scale the messaging once you cap out the direct. So I think that's important for everybody to know. And the other thing, just so everybody knows what an app funnel is, really the key of it is saying everything you need to say to get somebody to book a call in the ad.
Yes.
Right? So like before we called it the app funnel, I used to call it like the ad SL, because instead of, it used to be, the ad was just to get them to watch the VSL.
Yes.
Right? And then the VSL, you tell them everything they need to know to book a call.
Yes.
The app funnel, really it's like you're just saying everything you need to say in the ad, which works better because more people watch the ad. Correct. So you just have a higher impression account. And so a lot of times you get better people. Now, the quality, depending on your niche, could vary. But a lot of times what I think we found is that the quicker we could just get to the point, the more people who have money just book. Because people who have money don't want to, rig them around with your VSL and your 30-minute thing or whatever it is.
Correct. One thing actually on that note, and this applies to all of the funnels as well, but most people don't realize this, and we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. But there's, I think this came from Facebook directly. I heard this first in the Acquired podcast, that the engagement of ads is greater than the engagement of organic content. Like the overall engagement of the platform increases with ads, which is like insane. It's like the first time in history it's ever happened.
Yeah.
And so I say all that to say, like, that's why, like, when we talk about focusing on the ad and making a really excellent ad is so important with any funnel. And the application funnel forces you to do that, right? You can't, I'm going to have kind of a, half-ass ad or so-so ad, and I'm going to have a really dialed-in VSL, which typically doesn't happen anyways. You're not going to have a good ad, you're going to have a good VSL. So it forces you to do that, and then it sets you up to do more complicated stuff later if you want to.
Yep. Okay, next funnel on the tier list, the call funnel, but direct call funnel.
Yeah,
and we have to explain for the audience what that actually is.
Yes. So direct call funnel is you lead with the offer. So the offer's coming out, usually in the ad or extremely early in the marketing process. And, it's like the polar opposite of the way things used to be back in the day, back in the OG days. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yep.
I think in general, let me kind of separate the two things. So first of all, just direct advertising, I would almost always start with for two reasons. Number one is much easier in most cases to get that to work than to get, some indirect, super long marketing process or copy. So that's number one. Number two is, and I think this is just as important, even if you're in a niche or an offer where you're not sure, like it kind of seems like indirect might work better, the direct is just so easy to make, you might as well just try it. Like there's not really a reason not to do it. Mm-hmm. So if we're saying, direct, because you said call funnel, that could be an app funnel or VSL funnel or anything, right? I would just say in general, I would typically always start with direct. If we're talking, did you mean by call funnel, you mean like VSL
Well,
funnel?
yeah. So in this, the difference between the call, it's really a VSL funnel, but the traditional call funnel is, if it's direct, is the ad is direct, and then the VSL is direct, and it's essentially, the ad might be 90 seconds, the VSL is going to be 5 to 15 minutes, but it's all direct. So the VSL is also going to start direct, and then, our framework is you state the offer. I mean, the first 90 seconds of the VSL is very similar to the first 90. It's basically the ad. Yeah. But then the only difference is you tack on more information supporting why it works so well. So it's kind of like a reverse sales letter in a way, where it's like, here's everything you need to know, but then like there's more stuff at the end for the higher information buyers to want to know, okay, well, why does it work so well? Yeah. Which is why the second part of so you probably want to, if you want to know why this works so well, So that's probably why it works. I mean, if you've watched my ads, this is like, that and the app funnel is basically the
I would say both of them are, I know I said A tier. I guess technically we say S tier. Maybe I said A tier for the application funnel.
Oh yeah, we meant S tier. Yeah, we meant S tier. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously direct call funnel, I mean, same thing. Like it's very, very good.
Let's just remove S tier and only go A tier because it's, now we've already confused it. So A tier is the best for us. So I would say that the call funnel, add to the VSL, then do an application, etc.
Yeah.
Still A tier. And sub question, with or without an opt-in?
Well, let me just say this. Most of the time now, if you track things properly, without having no opt-in is going to yield just a better result, lower CAC, all that. If you can get the opt-in to work, that's ideal from building your email list and that whole standpoint. With that being said, for the love of God, if you do get an opt-in to work, please do not do your pixel conditioning on a lead event. Like, for the love of God, do not do that with a call funnel.
Yeah,
that is terrible. But in general, I mean, we removed our opt-ins a long time ago, and mainly just from a front-end cost per acquisition. It's significantly better in most cases, but it's one of those things I would always test and just see.
I would say, for anybody wondering, basically the advantage of having an opt-in is that you have more leads for your setters, and you have more leads that are going to book through email marketing on the back end.
Correct.
So how do you know? Basically, if you remove the opt-in, you have to get a cost reduction as such that it outweighs what you would have gotten from the setters and the emails.
Yeah.
So the percentage I tell clients is that it's about 30%. So I would be willing to pay 30% more cost per book call from like only ads, direct calls, not obviously with everything combined, if it's through an opt-in.
Yeah.
If it's anything more than 30%, it's just better just to remove it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if it's like, I'm trying to think of what if I was getting $130 or $100 calls, I would pay probably, 130, 150 to 150 cost per book call if I could add the opt-in.
Yeah.
Because the setters are going to book the best calls, and also a lot of good closes come from email for whatever reason.
Yes.
They do. But once we've tested it to where we've had certain funnels where essentially adding in the opt-in doubled the cost per book call, or flat out just it didn't even work.
Yeah.
It was like $2,000 cost per book call.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So in that case, it obviously works better.
Well, and
direct.
this pre-assumes that you have a good setting team and you're
Yes,
doing consistent email marketing.
Yes, which most people aren't doing. So then if you're not doing any of that, you just don't do the opt-in.
Definitely don't do an opt-in.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one is the VSL call funnel indirect.
Yeah.
What tier? And again, A tier is going to be the best because we started basically saying A tier was the best. So.
Yeah. A tier is the best. I would say for the vast majority of people, it's probably C tier, in my personal opinion. The people that can get it to work these days are exceptionally good copywriters that are advanced marketers. What's actually interesting about this is, pre you blowing up and making the direct call funnel a thing, everything was indirect. It was all indirect.
Yeah,
funnels.
it was.
And back then, there was much more of an emphasis on marketing ability rather than sales ability. And you kind of coming in has shifted the focus now to sales ability. So in the last 5 or 6 years, you've had all these people flood into the market, start a business, and they've built their business from the ground up with direct offer advertising. And for those people, going from direct offer to indirect, they're like, oh, it's just a tweak in your messaging. It's like an exponential increase in difficulty because it's putting a lot more of the emphasis on the acquisition or the shouldering the weight of the acquisition on marketing rather than sales. And most people that have come in the last 5 years just don't have the skill set to do that fundamentally.
Yeah.
So I would give it a C tier from that standpoint. If you're like an excellent copywriter, you've been around for a while, and you're in, you've tried the direct offer, you've tried multiple offers, it doesn't work, you have to go direct. I mean, honestly, it'd be like one of those things where I might just do a different offer. But I know I've written indirect stuff, I've written webinars. I know I could probably get something to work if I needed to.
Yeah.
So that's.
So you're kind of but it depends on your skill set. That's why I put it B tier, because essentially, if you are really good at copywriting, obviously it can work. The case is when to have indirect messaging, which means the ad is going to advertise like a free training or a free video training or whatever it is, a free case study. And then the VSL starts with more content driven and then pivots to the offer. So, that's what we did with RCA back in 2020. And that funnel did 20 million a year. I don't know how much it collected over its lifetime, but it was a lot from when we did it. So it obviously works. It works less now because I think it's a couple of different reasons. People's attention spans are just less. They just want to get right to the point. I think the other thing is that there's kind of more of an information asymmetry issue with the market to where buyers are becoming more and more skeptical and demanding more information up front. And then the way they're trying to kind of essentially sort who's essentially the good providers versus the bad is, or like if I'm a seller, the way I'm trying to essentially signal that I'm a good provider, because everybody's so skeptical, is doing like all these guarantees, that's why I think that's a big reason why, like, a lot of people think that it's Hormozi's book that essentially created the whole like offer guarantees thing. I think that's part of it. I also think it's people are so freaking skeptical that that's just what they respond to. Is like they want to go towards stuff that eliminates their risk as much as possible, because that actually happens in all markets. Over time, is as buyers kind of get burned and the market sophisticates, it sort of shifts towards like the sellers essentially have to signal that they have a guarantee, or like, does that make sense? Essentially, like they're trying to signal that they're a good person. It's almost like kind of business peacocking. Yeah, it's like you're trying to signal that you're legit by doing something that's costly to you, that somebody who's not legit couldn't do. So I think that's part of the reason. And also just mimicry, like people see me doing it or whatever.
That's what I was saying. I was like,
there's think, that as well. Yeah. But also people think it's a trust recession. Oh, we're in a trust. It ain't gonna get any better. I don't think it's a trust recession. I think it's really just the market's been around long enough to where if you're a buyer, you bought in several things and you just getting burned and burned and burned and burned and burned. You're looking for signals of people who are legit. And what are the signals? Okay, I'm gonna give you this guarantee. What are the other signals? Just massive proof stacking. Like the best ads are literally, did you hear Hormozi's story about how he had to go back in because all their ads weren't working at Gym Lodge and the private equity company didn't know what to do. And all he found out was just like they were using way less proof. And so he just like 10x the proof and the ads worked again. Yeah, I mean, it's like if in the same thing with Becker and his ads, like what does he just do? It's pretty much basic marketing principles, 10x the proof of everybody else. And that's why it works. So I think that's a big shift to that.
I'll just say this as a final note to that. Blaming the trust recession for your ads not working is like one of the lamest excuses.
Yeah, I always thought, well, we're in a trust. I was like, shut up.
Your copy sucks.
Yeah, you just run a bad business.
Yes.
Yes, people are more skeptical. They're more broke. Well, the market's more sophisticated and people are more broke. I will end off the indirect call funnel with this. The best way usually to do it is if you have direct working and then it's like a layer of scale. First you kind of still do the direct funnel, but indirect to direct. And then you can try to go to colder markets by essentially being the more indirect you go, the more colder you get, right? So it can kind of layer on as a good place to scale. The only other time I think people should do it is if fundamentally people would have no desire for what you're offering, which is rare, unless there's significant education towards it. Yeah. Right? But even at that, I would still try to do it in the ad. Yeah. And it's very rare that stuff like that exists. Most of the times there is some sort of solution aware market and people think like that market's, it's so small, it's going to get capped. It's like, no, you need to probably make more ads, make more creators or whatever. Yeah. I mean, I've seen people with direct funnels get to like 4 million a month, and tons of different industries. Okay. Call funnel indirect. Okay. B tier. You kind of did like an A tier, C tier.
No. I'm saying C tier.
C tier. Okay. C-tier. Fair enough. All right. Auto, your classic, your baby auto webinar. Mid-ticket funnel.
Yes. In 2017, A tier. In 2026, I would say D tier. It's pretty low.
There is people who have it working, and when you get it working, it rips. It's the best. The way to get it working now, though, you have to do the thing I did with the setters
and the upsell and all that. Yeah. I mean, in a traditional sense, it's D tier. If you have again, it's funny because people, and I've seen this over and over again with our clients, just with people in this space. It's like they get one funnel working and then they bump up against like scaling limitations, challenges, whatever it is. And they're like, man, I can't scale this funnel. And they build up this whole narrative, these false beliefs about like it's a funnel. And they're like, I need to jump from this funnel to that funnel. And by the way, half the time when they like the challenges they're facing are like sales related. That switching the funnel literally changes nothing at all.
Sales problem again.
Yeah. It's like we're just gonna have the same problem, but now even more. So I would say D tier. it's hard for me to say that as like the former webinar guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what I would say is I do know people. So if you're going to try to get it liquidating on the front end or like very high liquidation, it's pretty much F tier nowadays, in my opinion, just because that's pretty much impossible. The way to get it to work, like the clients I have that do have it working, which is very few, because you got to be also really good at copywriting, and like your offer has to be good.
Yeah.
It would have to be some sort of fancy AI thing or just something that's like, I don't know, just a really good offer. But the way we got it to work, and also the way, like I have a few clients, the way they're getting it to work, and it's kind of funny, is you liquidate 40 to 60% on the webinar. And then obviously there's an onboarding call. Then you do the onboarding call to a sales call. Then they credit the investment towards, if it's like a $2,000 auto webinar or $1,000 auto webinar, they credit that towards like a 10K. But what most people don't understand is the way we got it to work is all the people who just opted in, who didn't even watch the webinar, we just called them and sold the 10K directly, which means you have to have a good setter team and you have to have a good closer team.
Yeah.
And just to give people like an idea, we would do 300 RCA sales a month at 10K. 60 of them would be from the auto webinar upgrades. 240 would be from the setters calling people who were like, yeah, I watched like 10 minutes. Yeah. And then the nice thing was, because the damn thing was so long, we just didn't even tell them about the $2,000, which it was a limited time offer that they had to, they had to pick. So that was also being legit. All right. Different version. This one's an interesting one. Is the live webinar funnel, like doing it twice a week. This is kind of coming back.
It is.
It's coming back.
It's making a comeback.
It's coming back.
You know, it's one full circle, right? I think, look, some of these funnels, to go back to the point I just made, are crutches for having a poor sales department.
Yes.
And what a lot of people are doing with the live webinar funnel now, the people I've seen do it, it's not like it used to be where you'd pitch your product and it was mid-ticket. People are doing the live webinar for 3 hours and then booking sales calls. And they're closing 60% of people. It's like, well, yeah, dude, no shit. They just spent 7 hours going through your ad, your funnel, reading your email, showing up to a webinar. Of course, you're closing 60%.
Yeah.
So from a standpoint of like building a sustainable business and not having to do live streams twice a week, unless that's like your thing, I'd say it's definitely better than the auto webinar. It's easier to do than that. But I would still say it's like C tier. The only way I would rank it higher would be like if you have someone, this isn't a great example, but like the energy of like Pace Morby, who's like willing to just go to town, like travel this is obviously a different example, but like travel the country, meet everybody, just like loves the community. Just like that type of personality can pull this off and probably make a ton of money from it. Aside from that, it's not the best model in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it does work in some verticals though. Like I have clients that do crush it with this. The issue is getting people to show up. And I think a lot of that, again, comes down to the audience and the offer. Women markets tend to like it better. I don't know why that is. Don't know why. Look at Shelby Sapp's doing $5 million a month with this. So for her, it's like S tier,
Yeah, but that's also organic.
But or it's combined. She got 1 million followers. She's been doing it a long time. Like, it's a combined organic paid thing going on, which is also why it probably would work for somebody like Pace Morby. Yeah. So I think if you're like that, man, it can crush.
Yeah.
But and for what I do see it work in a lot of women markets. I know if I ran it, I just feel like people wouldn't show up. Remember we ran it one time for RCA and we were like, I was so skeptical people would show up. I had Martinez do the webinar because I didn't want to do it. And there was like 6 people who showed up and like 3 were clients already or something.
Yeah.
I remember. The poor guy had to do the whole webinar for like 3 people. So getting them to show up is the tough part. I do think it can work as a list reactivation monthly. That's good.
Great.
Yeah. That would be like A tier.
Yeah.
And I do think you mentioned, just as a little side note, if we can go on a little detour. A lot of people, they essentially they try to fix their sales team problems with marketing. And I think it's an important like side quest to go on. There's kind of 2 ways. Well, there's really 3 ways that you can approach acquisition. The first way is being so strong with your marketing that the sales team is like order takers, right? And like that's kind of what, if you can knock this funnel out, or even if you can do a liquidating auto webinar, which is very, very hard, you can essentially do that. The problem is you got to be extraordinary either on social media or it's an extraordinary marketer and have an extraordinary offer to do that. But like the OG king of that is Alex Becker, right? To where like he would just make his marketing so good that the sale, because he didn't want to manage the sales team, right? Yeah. So that's that route. Then you have my route, which is like run the app funnel, which is a 90-second ad, and then just have a really good sales team.
Yeah.
Okay. The third route is you just do both. So that, and that's very rare to see, but I would say one of the only people I think is doing both would be Hormozy. To where like if I took that guy's lead, I'd probably close 95%. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't, but I know his sales team is like legitimately really good.
Yeah.
And he's generating basically these people are just taking orders and they're really good.
Yes.
So the third route is where you want to, I mean, that's how you get hundreds of millions if you can nail that.
If you can nail both. And on the note of those three paths, I totally agree. On the path of making your marketing so good that your sales team's order takers, if you're sitting around and you're like wondering right now if your marketing's good enough for that, the answer is no.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like finding product market fit with SaaS. Like they always say, like, you'll know it when you have it. Like if you're just able to hire sales reps and they're just instantly closing at like 30 to 50% with like very poor ramp up, you probably have it. But like Cole was saying, to get there with pure ads nowadays, almost impossible.
It's gotta be a combo.
You need some sort of large brand, and ads can be a part of your marketing
or just
process.
A really good offer to where people are willing to go through and commit to a challenge.
Yeah.
Or some sort of virtual event or a live webinar to where they're like the offer is so attractive and the market is so good and so new that they're willing to commit so much time. That's why like for whatever reason there is markets, and a lot of them I see with women to where they want to do that.
Yeah.
If I tried to do that again, I had like 3 people show up.
Hey, if the way you sell your product or service is through phone sales, you need to stop using booking systems like OneSub, Calendly, iClose, and other booking systems that aren't designed specifically for a phone sales approach or a phone sales team. So we at Saleskick just launched a new calendar and booking system that'll decrease your cost per book call because it's conversion rate optimized specifically for call funnels, whereas most other calendar systems are meant for corporate all-purpose booking, and it'll increase your show rate. So we've had clients see 30 to 100% increases in their show rate because our calendar system is specifically designed for call funnels and other funnels that are high volume sales call booking funnels. And the software does so much more. It's really the only product designed specifically for sales teams with inbound booking systems. So if you're interested, go to saleskick.com, check it out. Now back to the video.
Okay, next funnel on the list, low ticket. So this is a low ticket to high ticket ascension.
Yeah. Not my favorite funnel. not my favorite funnel.
I'm just crapping on everything.
Well, look, for more advanced folks, especially in B2C, obviously, we have clients that make, 3, 4, 5 million a month with that funnel. So like it can absolutely work. Is it something that the majority of the people watching this? I think like, kind of people go through this market, they go through this cycle of like, they try a call funnel and then like, it's like, oh, I can't close the people. It's like, the same thing you just said. That's like, okay, well, I need different marketing. And then they like jump to like a low ticket funnel or a webinar funnel or something. And it's hard to get it to work.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Case in point, you and I we tested 2 or 3 between the RCA book funnel back in the day, a couple other low ticket, variations. So it's like, and to be fair, we did get to a point where we had some pretty legit traction. But then we're just like, dude, we just put in all this effort. Let's just scale our call funnel.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
It was just much easier to do that.
Yeah.
Well, how would you list it?
I would say for certain markets, I would put it at B tier. For certain markets, I would say for the vast majority of people watching this, it's D tier. It's like either they're in the right market, but they're just not ready to take on that challenge, or they're just in the wrong market and it's just a complete distraction.
Yeah. You're a bit of a hater on a lot of these. Big app funnel and call funnel guy.
Yes.
I like it, but I agree with everything you said. It's a more heavier marketing approach. It's harder to get to work. It's also like it's usually best to try an app funnel or a call funnel first and really get that dialed. Like I tell clients, try to get to 400 to 800 a month minimum with one of those funnels, and then you can test that funnel on the side. Because if you can get it, the thing is, especially if you're B2C, if you're B2B, don't even bother.
Yeah.
But if you're B2C, if you can get that to work, you can liquidate a lot of your spend, and it essentially changes all the economics of your business, and you can scale way further. Because the other issue with B2C as well is it is tough to keep the pixel from just optimizing to the absolute worst people on the planet. And having a purchase pixel really does help that. But it's very hard to even know what those people are going to buy unless you have, like, if you've scaled a call funnel to $500 a month, you get an idea of, okay, here's my customers, here's the perfect person, here's what they want, here's the type of low ticket offer they would really respond to, etc. So I do think if you can get it to work, it's like amazing. But the problem is it's not where I would start, and it's hard to get it to work. And for B2B, it's kind of meh.
I also think it's funny. I was talking to someone at the event yesterday, and I used this example, and so I'll share it here. So when you're building your offer, you're hiring your first couple salespeople, it's really easy to allow the salespeople to sell you on changing your business. Well, that's also true when you're on Facebook and you're allowing marketers to market to you to tell you need to switch funnels.
Mm-hmm.
And like case in point, there's a lot of, I think, I'm not saying these people are lying about this. Like, I'm sure it's true in certain situations. But for example, the old adage, buyer leads, buy more often. Sure. But like, just because someone buys a $27 product doesn't mean they're going to buy a $10,000 product. Like, and from what we saw, at least the day we had, like, that wasn't necessarily correlated, right? Even like the idea that like show rates are better from people who buy lower ticket stuff because they're buyer leads wasn't necessarily true either.
Yeah.
So I think there's like I'm not anti. I mean, I gave it a B tier for the right markets. You know, I'm not a hater of the low ticket funnel. I just think it's very complicated, and you really need to be the right person in the right situation for it to make sense.
Yeah. And what's also interesting about that funnel is it literally does not work without a good setting team. Same thing with the auto webinar.
Thing.
So if you need setters, you can book a call, right? That is what we do. So the last one we'll do is the challenge funnel.
Yeah, it's interesting. This one's kind of fallen out of style the last like 12 months. Like I've heard about it less and less.
Really?
And it's
interesting.
It's more like the people that I heard doing challenges are now doing webinars. More, I feel like. So I don't know. I mean, personally, this is the one I have the least experience with. I think it's okay. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like,
give it a tier.
Yeah, and I will, dude. I will. I will.
All right.
I think, it's like, look, if you're going to do a live challenge, first of all, like weekly or monthly or whatever, as a promotion, A tier can be great as a back end promotion. For front end paid, there are very limited situations where maybe it makes sense. Granted, in my personal opinion, it's like go through the list of efficiency. It's like challenge funnel, multiple day thing that's live. Then you do a live webinar that's one day that's live. If you can get that to work, that's much better than this. Yeah. It's just less time. And I think I gave live webinars a C tier. So I gave this like a D tier in my personal opinion.
Yeah. I've seen it work. And when it does work, it can absolutely rip if your sales team is good.
Sure.
Weirdly though, it works. All the markets I've seen it work with clients, all women markets. I don't know why that is. I just think they like challenges.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Live webinars too, but it can work. When it does work, it is one of those things where it can turn your sales team into order takers. And then if you're actually really good with your sales team and your setter team with that funnel, I mean, it can scale really big. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. Can we add a funnel actually?
Yeah. I was going to say any we missed.
Yeah. Quiz funnel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What do you think about the quiz funnel?
Well, we really never gave it a good hearty test. No, I don't. But the idea of it, I really like.
The idea of it,
I am a big fan.
S tier idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because the way we thought of the quiz funnel internally, which I think would be interesting for people, is it's kind of like, it's really just like an opt-in in disguise.
Yeah.
And going back to what we were saying before about the direct call funnels, opt-ins, at least nowadays, for the most part, just make the cost per call, cost per MQL too expensive to use. And so we stopped using it. But then we're like, well, can we get creative and like give someone a little bit of incentive to opt in via the form of a quiz and getting your results. So we gave it a little bit of a test. It's something that I definitely want to test more this year. With that being said, what I will say is I know a couple of B2C clients right now that were inspired by our limited quiz tests.
Yeah.
That are actually doing pretty
Doing
well.
really well. I know another one too who's not even a client, and he's my buddy. And I told him to do it because he was in the health space. And essentially, I was like, add a quiz in front of your VSL or whatever, just like frame it like a quiz to do the pixel conditioning essentially, so that like that, because you can get way more information if it's a quiz.
Yeah.
And I'm like, only send the right things back to the pixel, because he was getting like $10 quizzes. So it's still a lot of data. Yeah. And that is the most effective way to really increase quality for B2C. Yeah. And it's basically still just a VSL funnel, but you just frame it as a customized VSL. And maybe you do record 2 or 3 little versions of it, and you can get way better quality that way.
Yeah.
So I do actually like that. Where would we tier that one?
I think for B2C, like with what you're saying, if you can get the cost low enough, it's pretty good. Like it can be B tier, potentially A tier.
Yeah.
The key thing with this though, it's funny, like this is true with all the funnels, got to have a good setting team. You know, you got to be able to set people from the quizzes.
Exactly, yeah.
Extremely important. If you have that data, it can be great. Yeah. Book a call down below.
All right.
So
perfect. Yeah. What about, actually, I missed one, lead forms?
In almost all circumstances, F tier.
Yeah, I would say D tier, but I think I'm just nicer than you are.
Super overrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, the issue is I have heard that there's something Facebook released, or there's something you can do to eliminate the spam. And if you do that, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
But the issue is you just get a lot of spam leads.
Well, and people they start with a lead form for whatever reason, and then they get used to having $12 leads. And then you put them on any other funnel
where they
have
bad.
a normal cost per lead, and then they're upset.
It's like, who cares about your cost per lead?
Yeah.
Cost per lead is stupid. I don't even look at it. People ask me what's a good cost per lead. I'm like, I don't even care. I care about cost per acquisition and ROI. Okay, so let's move on. And by the way, all of that whole tier list is all about ads, right? Yeah. So obviously, if you're famous on social media or whatever, and you're like, well, live webinars work well for me, great. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about specifically working when you have no brand.
Yeah.
Basically.
One thing actually, final note to hit on the funnels, and you were saying this last night. I don't know if you want to share this a little bit more, but notice how we never said any of these funnels absolutely don't work. At some point, all funnels, all acquisition processes can work. It's not that they don't.
Maybe not the group funnel.
Okay, yeah.
That one might be
that's the one exception. That's the one exception.
That might be RIP'd.
But aside from the group funnel, all these things can work, and it's more about how you execute it, the simplicity of getting it to work. That's the big thing for most people, and then the level of skill set of your sales organization.
Yeah, and just your skill sets also as a marketer, and where you are and your progression. Because again, low ticket can make a lot of sense, or even the webinar thing can make a lot of sense, but you have to really know your market very well to be able to do it. So let's talk about offers. And this is just kind of general spitballing, but what offers do you see working best on ads right now? I have some written down.
Yeah. Well, the more done for you can get, the better. I mean, that's just the general macro trend of the industry. What's funny is I first experienced that because I had my biz op before we worked together, obviously.
Yeah.
And $7,000 offer, scaled it to $800,000 a month. It was good, you know? And then had that falling out with my business partner. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to launch this done for you thing. And I don't know if I told you the story of the results I got from that, but, I was I had these false beliefs, these limiting beliefs about my ability to market. Cause take something off the ground at that point, because I had ran that one business for so long. I was like, can I do this again? Right. And so I wrote this VSL for this, same thing. It was just we'll do it for you. We'll build you a business. And it was a $30K offer. You had to pay up front, and then you had to sign a 5-year contract, $30K a year plus a profit share. And I was like, if we get 3 sales the first month, it's good. That's a good start,
right.
And we ripped 26 sales. And I was like, holy shit. And then I learned about fulfillment.
Yeah.
But I say that to say I think both, even on the B2C side, especially obviously more, make money niches, kind of like we talk about, if you want a higher quality lead, solving a better problem, solving a passive income problem on the side for someone is going to get you inherently a better quality lead typically than if you frame your offer as we'll help you quit your job.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the general macro trend. And then, aside from that, you have the core markets of wealth, relationships, and health. And I mean, there's offers working really, really well in all of those right now that I'm aware of and that you're aware of. So I don't know if you have.
Well, the one thing I want to point out about what you said is kind of I call it the barbell principle. So what works really well right now is on one end you have like usually more B2B done for you or just done for you anything in general. So that's on one end. As you move up to wealthier customers or businesses or whatever, it's kind of like it needs to be done for you, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the barbell is like mass market B2C, right? That also works really well. Anything kind of like in between that is not great, you know? So I'll give you an example is people who go after like if you want to go after people who start a coaching business, great. If you want to go after people who need a done-for-you service and already have a coaching business, great. But if you're trying to be like a coach that's done with you for somebody doing 10K a month, I call that no man's land.
Yeah.
You know, or like if you're trying to work with a realtor doing 20K a month, it's like to do done with you. You're kind of on like this middle of no man's land to where you don't have the advantage of a super massive TAM, and you also don't have the advantage of a really good done for you offer, which again, as people have gotten more sophisticated into the market, they move towards, I just want stuff done for me. I also want guarantees. I want to limit my risk, which kind of reflects to Hormozi's value equation of like perceived likelihood of achievement, how much work and sacrifice do they have to put in, what's the time delay. Like that's kind of why that shifted more that way, in my opinion.
One thing on offers too, and this is so funny because yesterday at the event, there was a few people I talked to, and I was just like, man, I wish I would have said this like on stage. A lot of if you're you know pre-revenue or you're early stage, you're kind of just getting your offer validated. One of the big mistakes that I've seen lately is, you know, you have your vehicle and then you have the result that you're delivering, and a lot of folks early on confuse those things, and like their offer becomes about the vehicle, which in certain circumstances can work. But for example, like I was talking to a client that was like, and we actually had a big discussion about this. It's like, hey, like I help someone tell better stories, right? And there's a certain market we talked about, I won't talk about it here, but where that could work. But in most markets where that's going to work is going to be help them tell better stories to get a result, to get an outcome, right? Another example of this is like, I was talking to a lady with like kind of a mindset offer. And like, again, same thing. It was like, oh, I help people. That wasn't even improve their mindsets. I help people learn this process. And it was like, okay, yeah, but people want the result of the process, not the process, right? And so if you're early on, or if maybe you're getting like some clients through organic and you haven't really dialed in cold ads, that could be a reason why your offer's not working. So you're focusing on the vehicle rather than the end.
The way I explain that is you can't create desire, you can only channel it. So if you think of desire as like a moving parade that's all trying to move towards a result, it's like a stream, right? Like you can either, in the case of like doing sales recruiting, we just with a direct offer just place ourselves in the stream, right? Whereas with RCA, back when I launched it at least, there wasn't a big group of people out there that even knew what high ticket closing was or remote closing or whatever, let alone wanted to become one. So what I had to do is the stream was, okay, everybody wanted to do passive income, Amazon FBA, drop shipping, affiliate marketing, whatever. And basically the messaging had to essentially tap into existing desire and channel it to create new demand. Okay, so I was like, hey, don't do any of this. If all you want to do is make a little bit of money, blah, 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 and do it remotely, because back then like remote work wasn't as like common as it is now. I was like, instead of doing all of that, do this instead. So I was basically channeling it to create demand. So in your example with like the storytelling thing, people aren't out there saying, you know, they don't wake up and they're like, I want to be a better storyteller today. I mean, there's maybe some people, but not a lot of people. But what they do want is to get clients. What they do want is, you know, a career shift or whatever. Or they're a corporate speaker. They want to get more clients and not be less boring in a corporate speaking. So you have to tap into that and kind of meet them where they're at. Yeah. And then through your copy, channel it into what you're doing, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
So I wrote down a few offers that are working well. I would get your thoughts on these. So one is B2B SaaS. So if you actually have product market fit and you can run ads to a high ticket B2B SaaS, I mean, rips. It's just ridiculous. Hard part, product market fit, creating something somebody wants. Like so many people in my DMs pitch me new thing for sales managers that has to do with AI that I'm like, yeah, but nobody wants this. The sales managers don't want this, et cetera.
Yeah,
So
on the note B2B SaaS too, one piece of advice Hermosi gave me when I first met him back in early 2024. And, at that stage, my SaaS was like 10K a month, And I was like, yeah. And what he told me to do, which everyone who has a B2B SaaS hates hearing this, but it's truth. It's great advice. He was like, yeah, dude, so get it to 100K, a month, and then just wait a year and see what happens. Like literally just get to 100K a month, wait a year to see churn, retention, like all those core metrics, fix the product, make it good, and then you can scale it. And every time I tell a SaaS owner that, they go, I don't want to do that. It's like, okay, well, then you're not going to have success with ads at scale and be able to do all
yeah,
this
what's
stuff.
really interesting, you could tell me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong about B2B SaaS, but I feel like what people do is they really want to get the product right, and then the product just goes like crazy. It's almost very similar to a service business where you got to get to like $1 million or $2 million a year with CSMs, basically with a tech-enabled service. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have a product. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you're selling a service. So there still has to be a product first. It's not like you're an agency who's lead gen and you happen to do a little bit of tech. Like there's still a product, but it's basically getting there with, you have a product, but it's a lot of service as well. And then you have to get there to even know what the hell to build. Because you have to be working with customers who are actually paying you. Not saying they would pay you, paying you.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done. That's what Becker's done, a bunch of other people too.
Yeah, I think to some degree too, where people go wrong is SaaS is like, it's such a wide category and there's different types of SaaSes. So like technically, I mean, obviously it's different business, but Sam and Hermosi and School is technically B2B SaaS, technically. Now, obviously, they're network effect based SaaS, whereas what I'm doing is a stickiness and switching cost based SaaS, completely different. Yeah, and the way you build those companies is completely different. But people will confuse. They'll get advice from like this side and then bring it over to this side. It just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I think for the type of SaaS I built that Becker did, etc., 100%. Yeah, you just kind of have to really work with your customers and understand like what are the things that drive them to stick around and not leave. And that takes just a long time, even for someone that was in the market,
Yep. So I would say B2B SaaS, if product market fit rips. The other one is instead of software, is just service as a service. Service companies. And obviously with closers, we're a great example of that. But also with B2B services, I mean, there's I won't say who it is because I don't know if they want me to say their profit margins, but there's a UGC agency that people might know, I don't know, but a UGC agency that obviously works with like e-commerce companies, home service companies, works with coaching companies, all sorts of stuff, just does ads. Yeah. And they're doing $800,000 a month with $600,000 a month profit.
Not bad.
Pretty sick. But the key with that is just like a SaaS, because it's a service, is you get the customers, you get the businesses, and then the key is how much they pay you after you get them. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's because the marketing is going to be a lot more expensive, and the sales process is much harder than B2C, in my opinion. It's much easier to train a closer to sell a B2C emotional sale, make money or fix your relationship type product than it is to do, B2B. There's multiple decision makers. There's multiple calls. There's sometimes where like legitimately you can't one call close. The solutions could be a little bit more customized. The pricings could be a little bit different. But once you get those people, if you do a great job, they can pay you so much more money for so much longer of a time. And then you have great LTV to CAC, which allows you to scale much further.
Yeah, and on the note of services too, what you want to be careful of doing B2B is, you start with like, oh, okay, I'm going to help, I'm going to do this thing in their marketing. And then, it's like clients come in, then it's like, well, like they're not getting results because this other thing. And the next thing you just know, it's like your business is just their business. You're just trying to do it. And then now you can't scale, you know? And so you do have to be disciplined not to do that. And, but if you can do that and you can consistently get people results, there are certain services too, like we've talked about this, like email marketing services, dude, like from a fulfillment standpoint. Now getting clients a little bit harder, right? Yeah. But there's just certain services you can do where like they can provide a high, clear ROI, but they're easy to fulfill, especially now with AI.
Yeah, well, that one's tough because as business owners get more savvy with AI, I think they're just going to write their own emails.
Oh, I agree.
But there is probably an arbitrage window right now. What Eddie likes to do is sell them on ads and then give them the email marketing for free for a certain amount of months. I don't know the exact offer, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
And then he knows if he can get them on email, the LTV is like way longer because obviously like you got to send emails even if you fire your ad agency. They may be like, oh, I love your emails, but you know, whatever happens with ads. Another one I like weirdly is health. Some of my biggest clients, 50 million in health, 100 million in health. The key with that though, is it's not just health, but it is differentiated health, especially if it has a medical telehealth premium feeling to it with good messaging that allows you to charge a really high price point. Yeah. Like I talked to John Madsen on the last one, and I mean, he's doing 50 million a year and with a call funnel for the win. And I mean, the key with him is like, he basically has the same lead flow. Is the way I think of his offer is he basically sells a health offer with the same lead flow as if I was raising money for like a multifamily investment through ads. Oh, yeah. Like he basically gets accredited investors who want to invest in their health. The crazy thing is you can do that in any B2C though, if you frame it the right way.
Yeah.
So you can do it in relationships for sure. You can do it in health for sure, but you have to be not just like, you can't just say in your ad, busy professionals, right? Like the call out has to be there. It's more about how you speak to problems that only those people would have, which requires you to understand that market. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, we had experience with a health company of our own that scaled exponentially.
We did. We didn't do the high net worth thing though.
We did not do the
high net worth. We probably should have.
Yeah, dude,
we probably
definitely should have.
Yeah,
but you know, I mean, granted, I think we had a lot of success there, but
yeah,
I mean, look, if you can dial the messaging in right, like you're saying, if it's differentiated, either in, you know, the problem that you solve, how you solve it, which was kind of what we did, is like, you know, we're solving undifferentiated problems and with undifferentiated clients just in a unique way, right?
Yeah.
Or like you mentioned with John and his company, you know, going after a specific group of people that can pay a lot more. Yeah, it can definitely work, and I completely agree.
The key with that is that, you know, you can't do, it's almost like a lot of fitness people just do online personal training. Like if you're doing that, you're cooked because that's just a commodity, right? That's like saying relationship coaching, like you're cooked. You know, you have to frame it. So in the dating space, it's more about, okay, like what's something a high net worth, like it could be high net worth people prenups or high net worth divorces, or it could be really high successful people who have dating problems, because those problems are way different than average dating problems. So if you speak, it's more about if you speak to those pains, you can get those types of people. You know, same thing with health is you got to differentiate. So what's bad again is like online personal training, bad. But hey, have you been to a bunch of different doctors and a bunch of different companies and you know something's wrong with you, but nobody can tell you what's really wrong with you, and you've spent money doing this and you spent money doing that. And like that's one thing like Pampa does so well, is theirs is like so much more like functional medicine kind of like telehealthy type of thing, and obviously they do a lot of revenue. So another good offer is what do you think about this? Basically anything it's like anything with AI, but specifically AI related business opportunities. So there's a couple, right? You have the big one is AI consulting, AI agency. That's like the new SMMA, basically. Yeah. I've even seen, it's just so funny. It's like everything's just AI now. AI e-commerce.
Yeah.
I've seen like AI, you know, because there's that one company. Have you heard about the company that valued at 1.4 billion with 2 employees or 3 employees, and they're a telemedicine company? I've also heard they're a scam. So I don't know what the situation is with that.
Yeah.
But that's like the AI kind of like e-com thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, if you're selling that in the info space, I think it's going to do pretty well.
Anytime,
that's kind of the new frontier.
Yeah. Every 3 to 4 years, you know, something kind of new cycles into the industry, and it's like the hot thing for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's definitely AI right now. So
I'm going to continue that way for most part.
Probably for at least the next couple of years. For sure.
I think that no matter what your offer is, if you can figure out a way, I was even thinking about this as I was prepping for the pod. I was like, if you could figure out a way to just add AI somehow into what you're doing. So instead of Amazon, you're now an AI Amazon, agentic Amazon or whatever. I mean, that's probably a good offer.
Yeah.
Anything you could do like that, I think the better, you know, because everybody, it's just going to get people's attention.
Yep.
Okay. So, okay, let's move on to media buying. So not creative. It could be creative testing, right? But we'll talk about creative as a separate section, like how to make good creatives or what creatives are working. But in terms of like actual media buying strategies, what's working right now, or what's some things that we've actually tested? Which this could be a light section because I know that the main thing is really creative.
Yeah. Well, to hit that point for a second before there's a couple of things I could say, but you know, just the general trend is media buying is becoming less and less and less and less important as platforms just remove targeting options and all that. So, and I think that's just going to continue, especially with, you know, Meta bought Manus, and like, who knows how they're going to integrate that into their actual ad platform. Like, who knows, you know? So like, I just think in general, like, especially for high ticket, like e-com, that's different. You know, like there's obviously different industries for what we do. Definitely way less important than it used to be.
Can you explain why e-commerce is different?
Yeah, because the margins are much smaller, and they need, well, a couple things. Margins are much smaller. So if they can figure out little pockets of the audience, they also have massive TAMs typically.
Yeah.
They have little pockets of the audience that have higher, you know, lower CAC and a higher return, and they can specifically use media buying hacks to get to those people. That helps them a lot. They're also, just because, like, this is just a general observation, I think you've seen the same observation, businesses that have lower margins that rely on ads have to be on the absolute cutting edge of what's working. Like, case in point, when we were, you know, maybe 18 months ago now, maybe a little bit longer, we were looking to get into Twitter ads. Every single person we consulted, e-com.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I think you're missing the big one, which is there's a fundamental difference between lead gen or like high ticket and e-commerce. So with high ticket, you can only book, like I only need to book as many calls as my sales team can take, right? But with e-commerce, that's why they use certain things like accelerated spending and cost caps and big caps and all that stuff. Because like, it really doesn't matter if there's a pocket of 3 days where I could get 5 times the conversions that I can normally get in that 3-day pocket for whatever reason, just because CPMs are low or the iron roar or whatever it is, right? And advertisers aren't spending as much. If there's a weird 3-day pocket where I can get customers technically at a CAC that's going to get me, let's say, a 1.3 is what I want, right? If I can find that pocket, I literally want to spend as much as humanly possible. Granted, there is probably like inventory and certain constraints, but those aren't like the constraints you have with the sales team. So the reason the strategies, I think, fundamentally are so much more advanced is because it's more about how can I grab as many conversions in the day as I can, or as little as I can, because also they don't want to, like, it doesn't, like for us, we have so much more elasticity in our spending because it's high ticket, to where like, we just want the calendars to be full for the most part every single day. Whereas with them, it's like, you don't want to overspend, but you don't want to underspend either. And so that's why the cutting edge is always on e-commerce, because they have that sort of dynamic to it. It's also why most of the strategies they teach don't really make sense for us. Because if I have a 3-day span where I can get 5 times, let's say, the conversions for the same amount of costs, all I'm going to do is book out my calendar for 2 weeks and then get terrible show rates. So it doesn't make sense. I think that's the biggest fundamental difference. Anyways, you were saying back to whatever the loop was.
So with our industry, the couple things that we've seen, first of all, in general, broader audiences are better. That assumes you do everything correct creatively, which I know we'll talk about in a second. That's number one, even to a point where we have a lot of clients, and to some extent us, that have had success with just literally open targeting, right? Again, Pixel needs to be conditioned for that, and you got to do things right creatively. So that's number one. The biggest kind of update, I would say, in terms of what we figured out is in the last maybe 6 to 12 months, as you scale your call funnel, obviously, as you just mentioned, the primary function is just to fill the sales calendar, right? Now, this creates an interesting dilemma, where if the calendar's full and the ads are performing really well, you quite literally have no capacity to test. Because, okay, I could cut stuff that's working well to test stuff that's not working.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. So you end up in this weird situation. So what we started doing about maybe 6 to 9 months ago now is launch a bunch of new creatives in $1,000 a day campaigns, $2,000 a day campaigns, and cost cap it at far below the cap of our normal KPI. So it probably won't spend. If it does spend, you're getting bookings for far cheaper than you normally would anyways.
Right.
And it's spending 10% of its budget, $200 a day, just like nothing for us, right?
Yeah.
And that has actually been huge because number one is it helps us sort through, well, cool, which creatives should we actually break out and start testing with a regular campaign when we have the ability to do so. So it's been huge from that standpoint. And I think, as we haven't said this yet, but the last, 4 months, we've had 2 months in particular that have had some of the lowest CAC numbers we've had in a long time. And this for various reasons. But I think some of the underlying changes we made to testing things certainly had an impact on that recently. So that's, I would say, like the biggest thing. Aside from that, with Andromeda being out, we've moved away from dynamic creative. We now just launch things, throw the ads in there, and let Facebook do its thing.
Yep.
And it's working great for us.
Basically, it's Chad mode.
Yep.
To where you just throw them all in there and see what happens. How many do we throw in there?
It depends. For the testing campaigns, I mean, dude, I think as many as we can.
Yeah.
Once we have winning variations or winners, it's typically less. But anywhere from 10 to 15, 20 sometimes.
You could put 50 in there, honestly.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter. So just to be clear on the cost cap, because I'm not even, this is my ad account and I'm not even 100% clear on what's going on. So there's a cost cap campaign. The budget's like $5,000 or whatever it is a day. But obviously the caps are so low and so competitive that we're never going to spend $5,000.
Correct.
And we just throw pretty much all new creatives in there and just see if anything spends at all.
Correct.
Yeah. I think that's so much better than, because I know a lot of people do the sandbox and then the thing. We've tried that like 3 times because I always hear somebody talk about it and I'm like, we should try it because everybody's talking about it. I don't know. It just doesn't work as well for us. Yeah. And I also think there's an issue with that in the sense that, number one, if you're sandboxing stuff and it's ABO and it's super low budgets, it takes a long time to get statistical significance. So you're working off of a lot of data that's incomplete. And I think there's a lot of false correlation between stuff that works in there or doesn't work in there and stuff that actually ends up working. But it makes sense with the cost cap because if it does work in there and it's booking calls in KPI and Facebook's serving it, that probably is a higher indicator because it's already in a campaign that's optimizing for cost per book call and is at a decent budget, et cetera.
And with the sandbox thing, the biggest mistake I've seen when people try to do with call funnels is they'll judge the initial performance in the sandbox off like you said, completely different metric. It's like, oh yeah, this one's getting a great cost per lead, so we should put in a scaling campaign. It's like, dude, that has zero correlation.
Like the one time our media buyer made a campaign and he just put the clip of Michael Jordan dunking a basketball at the beginning of the ad, and it got like a 5% CTR. We're like, well, we don't really think this is because of that's going to convert.
Yeah, no, that was all I remember from that is I was like my first 2 weeks working with you, and I was just like running through the ads. And I just remember looking at the sheet. It was like, oh, the Michael Jordan ad. I was like,
what is this? This is dunking a basketball. And then after he dunked, it's like, if you need setters.
Dude, well, that's not even dude. It was a 10-second clip. The first 10 seconds of the ad was just Michael Jordan. And then the headline was Michael Jordan business advice. Dude, and then people laid out a page. It was RCA. People laid out a page. And it's like,
it was RCA.
Get into remote closing. It was just like
didn't convert, but it did get good CTRs.
CTR literally was like 9%.
I don't even know if we tested it because I was like, this isn't gonna work. What else? I mean, so you mentioned Andromeda. Does targeting even matter?
It's funny. I think I don't want to say it doesn't matter at all, but I definitely think it's way less important than it used to be. But the way I kind of think about it now is just like, look, Facebook's a massive platform. If we can help kind of nudge it in the right direction a little bit, probably gonna help. But certainly I don't think it's like anywhere where it used to be, where it's like, man, we need to like get down to the nitty gritty and have very small audiences and all that. So I listen, if you have a brand new ad account, brand new offer, I would certainly have some targeting. If you have a conditioned pixel and you have a really dialed in offer, like we've seen plenty of people crush it with open targeting at this point. So
For anybody who's wondering, I mean, a lot of people, it just works with open targeting. We typically do targeting, but it's like the audiences are 20 to 50 million. I mean, they're really big.
Yeah.
How do we test ads? Like not that creatives, but when we're testing a new campaign, can you walk through how we do it?
Yeah, that's the whole cost cap thing, right? So
well, not just the cost cap, but then when we launch a new campaign, $500 a day.
Oh, yeah. So, all right, so we get a whole batch of creatives that are new. Like I mentioned, throw it in a campaign, cost cap. If you want to get very technical, we take the KPI for that number, and we usually start the cost cap at 65% of the KPI. So if it's $100, for example, we'd start the cost cap at $65, $60, and usually around that range, it'll spend 5 to 10% of its total budget, right? Mm-hmm. Then based on that, we watch performance, and basically 100% of the time, 2 to 4 of the ads, depending on how many you have in there, will get all of the spend. And then you just take those ads out, and you're like assuming it got relatively enough spend to know it's okay. That's some traction. We'll break that out into its own CBO campaign. We have obviously our control audiences, which for us is just classic influencers, like influencer stack. And then the other one is just a 10% lookalike. And then roll that out $500 a day. We have our internal rules of, hey, we're going to spend 3 to 5x the KPI MQL cost, which for us is about $500 a day for anywhere between, the lowest end, 3 days if it's like really shit, on the highest end 6 days if it's kind of borderline. And then at that point, if it works, it really just goes back to the thing I brought up earlier, which is like, okay, well, what do we need to do from a sales calendar standpoint? Is there a lot of room? We need to scale the budget. Is there not a lot of room? If there isn't a lot of room, we just kind of cue it as like, okay, well, when we have ability to scale or we need to or whatever, this will be one of the highest leverage things we can do is just kind of duplicate this out and spend more on it. And then, obviously if we can do that right then we will.
So what about creatives? What's working with creative right now?
Glad you asked.
Yeah.
So,
I'm excited for this one.
Fun story.
Yeah.
I love telling the story, dude. So we have a couple of internal copywriters that work with us. Excellent guys. And there's one in particular that's really grown a lot the last 18 months. He's become a really good, solid copywriter. And for the first time in his time working with us, he's got not one, but he's got 2 winning ads at the same time, which, I know that doesn't sound like a huge accomplishment, but to give him his flowers, because he deserves it, our standards for ads are extraordinarily high. We're an extremely competitive direct response niche where your stuff has to be legit to even have a chance of working, let alone working. And to have 2 ads at one time working is awesome. So great job. But started showing up to meetings a little bit, was a little bit kind of, egotistical, was kind of felt like he was taking over,
Yeah.
And, it's like, I'm like, man, I got to bring this guy back down to earth, dude. I got to remind him I'm the CMO for a reason, and you still have a lot to learn, pal. And so I was kind of thinking, how am I going to do that? With a sales team, it's like, you just kind of get on some calls, close 6 deals in a row, and you guys are like, yeah, you're not that good, But you can't, how do you do that with the marketing team? So it's like, okay, I'm going to just write a banger ad that's going to outperform his 2 ads. And then I was like, well, I can't just do that. It needs to be embarrassing. It needs to be an ad that's dude, this ad's beating your ad, dude. And so I was on Facebook, just on regular Facebook, scrolling, and some guy had posted just a regular Facebook post. And you could do the background color thing.
Yep.
So he did that, and he did it bright red, and it caught my attention. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So I took our all of our offer statements. I took our best performing banners. I just put them in front of red squares. Not even really that aesthetically, to be honest with you. I just kind of did it, I don't want to say half-assed job, but I did a decent job, but not great. And then we just ran that as that best ad we have. Not even
just
close.
a red square.
Just a red square with
text.
Need setters and closers. Click below. Best ad.
We shouldn't even tell people this.
Yeah.
Because this is going to ruin it.
Yeah, I know.
It's
I
so
know.
easy to copy.
I know.
It's got a shelf life now, so maybe we'll delay the release of this podcast.
Yes. But well, I think there is actually one lesson from that. Aside from don't just copy everything. Aside from that, I think the lesson is with copywriting and creatives. We've said this for years. Clarity is everything.
I was gonna say the same exact thing.
Everything. So, number one is it shows you how important having a great offer is, and having it being not just great conceptually, but also easy to understand and clear. So you can literally just put that on a red square and get people to click and buy, or book a sales call. So that's number one. But number two is it also just shows you like, man, I just think in general, people way overcomplicate this stuff.
Yeah.
And especially professional copywriters, but even just offer owners. It's like, guys, just tell them what you do. And if what you do is not compelling enough for your market to buy, then, either reframe what you do, but you can only polish a turd so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. It's a lot of it when I look at clients' ads, it's just like, I don't know what you're saying. It's just what you got to have clear communication. The clearer the communication is, usually the better it works. Mm-hmm. At least it should be your starting point. That's like the prerequisite. Yeah. So it's you can write indirect stuff, but it's so tough if it's not clearly communicated. Yeah. Well, what else works?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to go through the fundamentals. So number one is you need to have a clear call out. We kind of mentioned in the targeting section of this podcast that like targeting's kind of dead or like pretty damn close to it. Mm-hmm. The targeting now is done via your ad, via your creative. So very clearly calling out who you want. And I think there's levels to doing this. So there's like the classic coaches and agencies. Like, okay, cool, that's a group of people. But you can also segment that group of people by, a certain revenue level, ad spend level, amount of clients, or something even further to a point.
Or the problem they're experiencing.
Yeah, or the problem that they're experiencing. And so I think, both in what we just said about clarity, also being not just clear on what you do, but who you want to work with, to a point where you're literally just saying it verbatim in the ad, in the copy, is like required today. So that's number one. Number two is, we talk a lot about risk reversals. One thing that I don't think works very well. Now, this is a little bit more contextual. It's not as black and white. So risk reversal, if you don't know that term, is like a guarantee, right? Mm-hmm. It's just another way of saying that. And, obviously there's the classic or you don't pay, which still works great.
Right.
No issues. That's where I recommend everybody starts. But there's sometimes, this is especially true with like usually newer offer owners. They get a little bit like kind of scared about that, and they have like some like limiting beliefs, and they have some fear associated with you don't pay or like having really a guarantee at all. And so then what they do is they kind of like water it down and they half-ass it, and they're like, hey, like we'll help you get the result, and then if we don't, then we'll just like keep working with you.
Right.
And I just have always seen that doesn't work, or if it does work, it's definitely not optimal, and you can certainly get a huge cost reduction by having a stronger guarantee. So I mean, that's just like 101 stuff. Mm-hmm. And then just, having strong proof. I mean, it's all the basic stuff, like having strong proof, being clear about what you say, having a clear offer, having a specific call out, and in some cases, multiple call outs. But yeah, I mean, it's, and then if you want to get a little bit more advanced than that, if you're doing direct offer stuff, obviously the next step, once you have that validated and working and scaling, is, okay, we have this direct offer. Can we just do an indirect hook to the direct offer?
Yes, yeah.
That's also great. Works really well. Although I will say, it's funny, I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were spending like, I don't know, a couple $100 a day on ads, like very, very low scale. But their ROAS, literally 20x cash.
Yeah.
And I see this all the time. I'm like, man, you're crushing it. And they're like, yeah, I just made like 8 creatives to test. I'm like, dude, I think you just got to spend more money on ads.
Yeah.
Like just on your one ad, just spend more. And they're like, you think it's not going to, like, you're very far from creative fatigue. You're very far, know?
Yeah, you are.
So that's my general, thesis around ads.
Well, a lot of people say, just on that note, a lot of people, Hormozi talks about more, better, new. What I've found is that people, they like to, like at first they're doing, well, at first you have to do new because you got to start something. Mm-hmm. And then what's funny is people go, like, some people
people very rarely stick with more. What happens is they do a little bit more and then they shift to better and then they procrastinate in better. It's like a perpetual procrastinate there when they actually need to go back to doing something just more of what's working, which is like the classic, like, well, you're doing 10 or 20x on ads. Why aren't you just spending more and hiring more salespeople? And they're like, well, I think I need to do this with my fulfillment. It's like, no, you don't. You don't even know what to do with fulfillment yet till you kind of like strain it or break it or whatever. Or they're like, well, I think my ad cost is going to go up. Okay, great. You're doing 20x. So there's that. Or they go from more, a little bit of more, right to new again.
Yes.
That's like the other thing that's very key is and it just depends on it really actually, I mean, both of it is actually driven by fear. And I'm not saying, like, we all have fear, I'm not saying these are fearful people or whatever, but it's like they're scared to scale or fix the next problem.
Yeah.
So they just go to doing something new and starting over until they hit the same barrier again, or they just procrastinate and better forever. A lot of our clients, it's procrastinate and better forever. Where it's like they just try to optimize and optimize and optimize. And I'm like, I think you just need to add more salespeople and spend more money.
Yeah. Can you actually share a little bit of because I think this will be so impactful for a lot of people listening. What you were sharing yesterday about once you have something validated, there's like this phase of business that's like the limiting belief phase. And it's like I have to like build all these foundations and I got to like, and without actually stress testing anything.
Yes.
And they kind of get stuck there.
So usually this is between 50 and 250 or 50 and 300 grand a month, where essentially you get something off the ground and you get to this point where it's working. And really what happens is it's the first phase where you actually are required to relinquish some degree of control, right? To where either you can't have every sales call, you can't do you don't know all your clients' names, you don't work with every client individually. It's kind of that phase. And so what happens is people just procrastinate there, and there's just kind of this fear of like, okay, if I scale past there, like, are all my clients going to hate me? Are they going to show up at my house? Are they going to freaking egg me in the street if they see me in the street? Are they going to, all refund and charge back on, they don't even have refunds, but they're all going to refund. And so people like to perpetuate in that kind of like, it's the biggest limiting belief sticking phase is usually 100 to 300 grand a month. And like, they're trying to just like make their closers go from 22% to 28%. And they're just like constantly focused on that. And I'm like, dude, you're doing like 15x ROAS. Like, just hire your next closer, spend more on ads. Or they're like, I need to fix my fulfillment. I'm like, you have to essentially grow a little bit more to stress or break the fulfillment even a little bit and, crack some eggs to make an omelet. Like you gotta, because once you stress the systems, it gives you clarity on what to build next.
Yeah.
And so that's like the big concept here is that that people like to over systematize and just sit there and build spreadsheets and build systems and build this thing. And now with Claude Code, it's like you can just spend hours in that thing. And you don't even know what to build until you start to stress or even break those systems. Then it becomes 100% clear on what to build. Yeah. So the clear example I have is that when we were doing the recruiting in the very beginning, at first, it was just essentially me getting people from my audience because I had a lot of salespeople following me. And then, I had one recruiter, and then eventually we had two recruiters, and we had no idea how to eventually build a 20-person recruiting team that does full cycle, that does outbound, that can do customized search, they can go to different countries, we could do multilingual, we can do in-person, we can do virtual, we can do door-to-door, we can do everything. I had no idea how to build that, but we just kind of took another step. We kept selling more clients, and then the systems would stress. And then we would figure out, okay, we need to separate roles and have recruiting coordinators and RAMs. RAMs work with the clients. Recruiting coordinators are actually the ones who source the deals. And then it's like, okay, the next thing is we need to move over to an actual centralized like data system. So we used Asana, then that broke. Then we moved to HubSpot, then that broke. Then we moved to an ATS. And so it just kind of, but would I have known any of that from the very beginning? I mean, I would know now if I restarted all over from scratch, but I mean, it was just easier and better to build those things over time and let it break or stress a little bit. And then you get the clarity of how to actually do that. The only reason I didn't go through that phase myself, but I really did like from 100 to 500, because basically really 150-ish to 200 a month, which is where I was at, to 500 a month was a 30-day span for me. So like we just jumped. And that I felt myself being super stressed because I didn't know who the clients were. I couldn't work with everybody. But what got me through it is when I was a full-time salesperson, essentially the program I was selling all the clients, the guy who, Taylor, who I used to work for, this was the main thing he would hammer home with people is they would stay in this procrastination, over systematized type of phase. And you need to grow to know what to build. Like you need to kind of like stress the infrastructure to know how to actually build the infrastructure, because it ends up being different for all the clients. So you have to create the problems and then you know what problems to solve. So that's kind of the main thing there.
On the note of that, on the back end of that, this is a very controversial take, but that is the single biggest problem with the theory of constraints. Is the theory of constraints presupposes that there's a problem that exists. And so if you're at 15x ROAS and you're like, I got to follow the theory of constraints, well, my show rate's not, or my close rate's not good enough or whatever, then instead of just realizing like, actually, wait a minute, the theory of constraints is around a system growing until it breaks. The system hasn't broken, it can continue to grow.
You have to increase volume to know where the constraint is. Yeah.
And so I think people can sometimes misconstrue it, because obviously the theory of constraints is very helpful, but people can misconstrue that and be like, well, I need to keep looking for problems and then they're just kind of making up a problem that isn't there.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video and you want to work more personally with either me or my team, we can help you in 2 different ways. Number 1, we can help you install a marketing system so you can generate more leads and ultimately scale the revenue of your business. Or B, we can help you with your sales team by placing setters or closers in your business. And if they don't perform, you don't pay. We can also help you scale your sales team, systematize your management, all of that stuff as well. So if you're interested in either of those, there's a link in the description or in the first comment. You can check it out. Now back to the video.
Back to creatives. So red squares work really well. Yes. The one thing I want to highlight what you said was what works really well in the beginning is just doing a direct offer. Okay. Now, and even if you do low ticket, we tested a bunch of ads when we've done low ticket over the years. Do the direct offer for low ticket where it's just like for $27, you can now get this thing.
Yep.
That actually worked the best too. So you do as many different variations and versions of that as you can, right? I would say, and this is what you said, I'm just highlighting it to kind of come back to it. Then the way you scale that is you have to sort of enter into the conversation they already have in their mind, whether it's the problems they're experiencing, trying to solve, or something that's going to catch their attention, and kind of go indirect for like 20 seconds. And then you pivot to the same offer. And that expands your market so much for the direct offer, right? But it's still, you could still just make the offer in the ad, everything is in the ad.
Yes.
So that's kind of the concept there. In terms of AI, how much are we using AI for creatives right now?
Yeah, so we use AI primarily right now, and for creative specifically, for additional creative production and like UGC style stuff. So to give a shout out to a software that we've liked a lot is Arcads. And I know it's funny, we first got on Arcads, I think early on when Arcads was around. And then like in the span of that coming up, there was like VO3 popped up and like other stuff popped up. And we tested those things, and obviously we had some stuff work with that. But I will say the way Arcads has their system structure where it's like it's a real person that like essentially is lending out their likeness, and it was filmed like how an ad would actually be, like their likeness was originally filmed how an ad would actually be filmed for our space. It just converged really well. It's funny, someone yesterday at the event asked, like, have you seen a difference in conversions or in any changes in those metrics with AI ads versus regular ads? In short, no. I do think it's kind of skewed data from our standpoint, simply because all of our video ads are either edited to a point where it's really hard to tell the difference between a human and AI.
That's true. Yeah.
And then also, the ones that aren't that way are like the Loom style ads that we do, which is another format that's working really well right now, where it's literally just a Loom video
with a document.
with a doc. Goes back to clarity, right?
Yeah.
But then it's just like this little circle at the bottom of the screen that it's such a small part of the screen that it's kind of hard to be like, oh, that's AI, So that's the main way that we're using it now. But yeah, I don't know if you had another point on that.
No, what's interesting is that we really only have, and this is what I talk about, is we probably only have like 5 to 7 fundamentally different creative concepts. Like we have our direct offer, then several more indirect hooks into the direct offer. Mm-hmm. There's not that many like fundamentally different creatives we get. And when we get one, that can unlock like an extra $100,000 in spend.
Yes.
Most of our volume is just creative ways to use different faces, AI, different editing, different backgrounds, different way it's filmed, different formats like the Loom video, etc., the red square, to just say the same exact thing.
Yes.
And that's why, I came up with this saying a long time ago. It's not how many offers you could sell, it's how many different ways you could sell the same offer. Right? Because it's actually the same concept. Because in a weird way, with the more, better, new thing, what's interesting about like the better phase is you are kind of finding different new ways and new ads to just communicate the same thing that ultimately hits different pockets of the audience because it resonates in different ways, or it's new or whatever. And then that essentially raises your ceiling for scale. And on the curve of diminishing returns, it kind of like puts you back further on the curve before you actually have to, and then it allows you to do more. If that makes sense.
I was also thinking, like, to go back to what we were talking about earlier about the people that are like 20x ROAS and have something that's working and they feel like this need to like make a bunch of different ads. It's not necessarily like a bad thing per se, because it'll help you understand your market better if you do more research and all that. It's more of like, hey, this is just the easiest path to grow your business. And if you have something that's working, let's just spend more money on that, make more money from it. And to your point, like there's angles and there's variations. Don't go make a bunch of angles if you have one thing that's a 20x cash ROAS. Probably don't need to do that, especially at $100 a day. But as we scale that, sure, if you go from $100 a day to $2,000 a day, probably want a couple different variations of you saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. So I think, there's nuance there where it's like a lot of our creative testing, the reason why we're able to spend so much, aside from the change that we made from a testing standpoint on the media buying side, is also just like, hey, like we emphasize making a bunch of variations of stuff we know works. And it's much higher likelihood of working again.
So show rates, what's working there?
Yeah, well,
That's a big one.
That's a big one. So a couple of key things. The first thing is, and this is just like following all the basics. Like, let's just recap the basics. It's like, number one, your booking window should be 2 days, 3 days maximum, with very, very few exception to that. Like if you're like a founder doing all the sales calls and you have to have maybe 4 days or something, okay, not ideal. But yeah, 2 days is like recommended. Also, this is a nuanced thing, but rolling availability is so important. So rolling availability is when your calendar shows you the next couple days of open appointments rather than the next day, the next 2 days, just period.
Uh-huh.
Because what happens is like, it'll be Friday morning, you're not taking sales calls Saturday, Sunday. And so now, if you don't have rolling availability, it just shows you, hey, here are your Friday appointments, and then that's it, right? And obviously, this is kind of aside from show rate, but you ain't gonna book any calls if there's no availability. So let's fix that. On the note of show rate and availability, next thing is, and Hermosa says this all the time, is just opening up as many slots as possible on the calendar. This is especially prevalent, this mistake, with smaller businesses, with smaller teams, where it's like they have one sales rep, or this is them taking the calls, and they have 2 hours open, every morning or something, and it's just that doesn't work. So you want a good wide range of availability. I would especially preface, we should have pulled this up before, but we've done a couple times show rate reports on per day as well as per time slot.
Yeah.
And we found that like PST in the afternoon and evening, specifically PST time, pretty good show rates.
Yeah.
That's usually better. So make sure your reps are talking at that time, but also, if you have the ability to do that report, I would do that. Right?
What's interesting? Matt found the same exact thing with Dialer, with answer rates in PST afternoons into evenings. So staggering reps to do that. We could do that, but
Yeah.
my reps like to have dinner.
They do.
And family time. We probably should do it though. Probably should stick somebody on it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's on the like calendar side. I mean, other basic stuff is, you got to separate ads call show rate versus setter show rate. KPI for setter show rate is minimum 70%. We've seen it get much higher than that.
Yeah, ours is like 85, 90.
Yeah. So that's just like the minimum. You could actually probably touch on.
Well, I was figuring I'd have to get to it at some point. So with setter show rate, I mean, the TLDR is if your setter show rate's bad, it's usually not like, everybody likes to think, oh, it's probably something they're saying at the very end when they're booking. I mean, there is certain things you should say. Okay. Yeah. If you want to know what they are, I have videos on that. You can just check them out on my YouTube. But the main thing is usually that your setters just aren't good and they're just booking an appointment to get off the call. So if your setters are really good, and like, just think about it. If like you get cold called in the middle of the day, most cold calls are terrible, and you talk to an extremely intelligent person who makes you think about your business or your life differently, you're probably going to show up on the next call.
Yeah.
If you call the person, they're probably gonna have a 100% show rate, 90% show rate. Like if you as the founder called the person.
Yeah.
So if we know that as an extreme, we know that, okay, that's probably true. So the number one thing is training your setters to make them good. A lot of times it's just hiring better setters. You know, it's worth saying, I feel like I say it on every podcast, like the last, freaking 3 months, is that we basically raised our setter pay by about 30%. It cost me an extra 25 grand a month. We got so much more production because we essentially were able to hire better setters just by getting into a different trough of like the recruiting talent pool. And because our setters were like closer level, basically setters, they booked so many more appointments that showed and closed at such a higher rate that we were able to reduce our ad spend by 250 grand a month for basically a 25 grand investment.
Yeah.
So that was unreal. And it made the calendar way more efficient because the setter calls show more. So that's the whole setter deal. If you want to know how to train your setters, I'm sure there's stuff on the channel.
Other basic mistakes that come up surprisingly a lot is just a complete lack of consistency in the funnel process for the lead and prospect. Where like they'll land on a, like, let's say they're doing a VSL funnel, land on the VSL page, it's like a white background, then they go to the application page, it's like blue, and then they go to like the thank you page and it's like orange, and it's just like,
jeez.
I mean, I've seen that so many times.
I realize, yeah.
You know, another one that weirdly doesn't happen as much as the colors, thankfully, but like does happen sometimes. Is like someone will like, they're in their stage of validating their offer, and then they've tested like 3 or 4 offers, right? And they finally get one that's like, okay, this is working. And then they start scaling it, and they're like, oh crap, like my show rate sucks. What's going on with my show rate? And then I audit it, and I'm like, well, bro, your ad, the offer's this. Your VSL, the offer's like slightly different, it's this. But then you get to the application, you have your application from the first offer. Completely different offer. Like completely different pain points, desire, like everything. And then guess what your confirmation page is from your second offer. It's just like, dude, don't you think people are a little bit confused?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So surprisingly common.
Yeah. Better ads, not generally, always lead to better show rates.
Yes.
And we even do something, you have to do our audit system to be able to do it because it's kind of complicated. But every 2 weeks, we look at show rate per campaign.
Yes.
And because we're able to do that, we have identified sometimes it's a more of a leading metric than waiting 45 to 60 days and a bunch of accrued spend to look at CAC.
Yes.
Because, with Hyros, you can look at cost per acquisition per campaign, but to get statistical significance, let's say if your CAC is $3,000,
yes,
you're going to have to spend like 20 grand, probably 30 grand, in my opinion, because also all the sales don't necessarily log to the right ad.
Correct.
So you're going to spend a bunch of money to figure out which campaigns have the best CAC. And it's tough because sometimes they'll get 3 sales in a week, so other times they'll get 0, right. Or did they really get 0 and it just didn't log? So, but you can look at show rate per campaign. And if the show rate per campaign, we've seen it to where you have show rate per campaign is at 30%. Yeah. I just know that's not going to work. I've had other ones that are 70%. You probably know that's going to work, right? And so, but it also shows, because a lot of B2C people will get terrible show rates. I'll look at their ads and I'm like, yeah, well, you're just getting scam traffic. Like it's really bad. But also talk about what they should do with email, SMS, before lead nurture, stuff like that.
Well, before I hit that, actually on the note of doing that thing, new version of Saleskick, we'll be able to do that in Hyros natively.
Nice.
Which is pretty sick. So that'll be great. On the note of emails and SMS, so there's kind of, the way I look at it, there's like 3 different reminder sequences for ads calls you need to have. First is just your basic automated communications. This is like your, automated messages that literally is like very clearly automated. It's like your appointment was booked at this date, do not reply or whatever, right? Same thing with your email. Like your booking system probably sends out some basic emails. It's just like, here's your appointment, Then you have what we do in HubSpot, but you have like your, actual written copy emails. For us, what we do is we introduce the sales rep that they're meeting. We just have like kind of some similar copy that pre-frames them as an expert and all that. And, gets them bought into that a little bit, as well as, continually sends them our homework video or like kind of confirmation page to get them more bought into the agenda and what they're going to, learn or, et cetera. And then we have our LNS system, which is a whole nother stream of communication. So LNS stands for lead nurture specialist. And the goal of that is like, you know, first and foremost, this isn't rocket science, but would you guess people who write down and confirm via text that they're going to show up to a call show up more often?
Yes.
You know, like
Yep.
rocket science, right? And so, a lot of times, you know, the reason why a lot of people struggle with show rate is it's like a lagging metric that could have, you know, as Hormozi says, there's no one silver bullet. There's 100 golden BBs. So there could be like 100 factors that affect your show rate. And because it's a lagging metric, it can be really difficult to identify what the core problems are. Well, what's nice about having an LNS is we track internally like, hey, we know our confirmation rate, meaning people who respond to the LNS and say they're going to attend the appointment is, let's just say 50%. And when somebody confirms the appointment, we know that their chances of showing up are like 90%, right? So, okay, cool. Well, guess what? Now we can, instead of having to like guess what affects show rate, we can just split test our copy, when we send the messages, the vehicle in which we use, like do we text on SMS, iMessage, we talked about that, right? WhatsApp, you know, et cetera, to increase that confirmation rate because we know, hey, when people confirm this, they show up at 90%, right? So it takes it from a lagging metric and gives you something actionable on the front end to do that directly correlates, right? So that's been huge. A couple tips on that like universally work really well is, number one, we send the initial block of texts, and I say block intentionally because human beings do not typically send massive paragraphs in one text out of the blue to somebody. It's usually like, hey, Cole, and then send. And then, you know, this is da-da-da-da, send, right? But when you send that initial text, to make it personalized for the person, like legitimately from their application, that typically yields higher confirmation rates. We've tested, and this is both at Closures.io as well as at Saleskick with a bunch of clients. You know, the difference between confirmation rate and what we call confirmation show rate, based on at what point do you confirm? So meaning, if when the person books, do you confirm immediately? Do you wait till 24 hours before? Do you wait till 5 hours before? Whatever. And what we've seen is that it's almost always better to confirm as soon as possible. And the reason why is your confirmation rate will be significantly higher, obviously. Now, the drawback to that is your confirmation share rate will be a little bit lower. Like, obviously, if you confirm an appointment 2 hours before the appointment and someone says yes, they're going to show up, right? But in general, the throughput overall
Their
is
overall
higher.
shows is higher.
Yes. So that's that. And then if you have a good LNS system like we have at Saleskick and what we've built out at Closures.io, it's not just about confirming them one time, but it's continually nurturing them throughout the process between when they book them and the actual call.
Sending them more stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's on the reminder side. Did I miss anything?
Well, there's email. Well,
Yeah,
the
we can talk
basic
about
email
email.
reminders, right? The only thing I do want to add, we actually haven't run the secondary test on this because we forgot. But I did notice our show rates have been a lot better the last month or two.
Yeah.
And this could just be for no reason at all. Or remember, one of the things I noticed is we would send like 6 or 7 content-based emails before because it's like we want to hammer them with a lot of, I kind of got this from Jeremy Haynes too. It's like you want to kind of hammer them with a lot of emails. If you make them valuable and it's just content-based, they can't get really mad that you're sending them content.
Yeah.
But like by the nature of you sending them valuable stuff, you also are reminding them about the appointment.
Yeah.
So I started doing that and sending them a bunch of videos. And then I realized, okay, they're opening the emails a lot. They're clicking a little bit, but then they're not even watching the videos. So I like tracked it all the way through.
Yeah.
So then I was like, let me just have all of the content just be written in the emails. And I don't know if that is a direct correlation in show rates, but since we did implement that,
Show rates have been much better.
the show rates have been much better.
Yeah.
And regardless, even if they're not better, I guarantee more people consume the content because it's written.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know why you wouldn't do that. So, we do send a pre-call video. So, we do send one video still that's like the main video we want them to watch. That's the one we also send through the LNS. And a lot of people do watch that.
Yeah.
But, like, the other stuff I would send them on, like, I had a training on how to go from 0 to 8 figures and this and that. And they're like, 30, 40-minute videos. They just weren't watching that. So, we just converted that into text.
Yeah.
And then even if they read half of that, that's more consumption than it, they weren't even watching the video, basically.
Yeah, in general, like if you want to improve your show rates, it's kind of to very simplify it, 3 steps. Number 1 is implement best practices in your marketing material, in your funnel, etc. to ensure you're getting the lead in the best possible place that you can from a show rate perspective. That's like the first third. Second third is do the exact same thing, implement best practices for your like pre-call process, right? And best practices are a lot of stuff we just covered. There's probably a little bit more, but in general, if you do what we say, that'll help a lot. Then the last third is where I think people can get stuck when they've already done those two things. And it requires a very detailed level of tracking and data, just review. We've been able to do that obviously at Closers.io. But like what you just said is a great example, which is like, yeah, sending them content's great. We found for our audience that actually having them read it yields a better result. In order for us to figure that out, we got to not only track the open rate, the click-through rate, but also the show rate of the people who read the emails.
Yeah,
who watch the video, etc. So, and I think that's where people can get stuck with show rate issues is, to solve a marketing problem, to solve a sales problem, takes a very different part of your brain than solving like a deep operational issue. Yeah. So I just, it just goes back to like, you need a good operating system, you need good tracking. And
to be clear with show rates, the overarching goal is, yes, to increase the show rate, but it really is to increase the number of live calls held per month per closer. And so this is where the double and single booking comes in, which is we look at all of this data. A part of the data that we look at is you could even look at how much they interact with emails, but we actually don't do that. We look at, do they confirm, do they not confirm? That's like the biggest one, right? And then we also look at stuff in their application. So there's different show rates depending on what they put in revenue level. There's different show rates even depending on the handle of the email they use. Gmail versus company email versus Yahoo, AOL, whatever. Company email is by far the best. Gmail is actually the worst. Yahoo and AOL for whatever, like second. But company email was the best. There's even, what type of offer do they have? That could relate to the show rate. Employee count could relate to the show rate. The length of response categorized into different buckets. Do they respond to the open-ended sections with one word versus a lot of words versus like paragraphs? It's like, I think we found the middle one was the highest show rate. So if you identify segments of what their application data is and you identify, that segment is, in our case, we like above 67.5%, then we let that stay on the calendar single booked.
Correct.
And then stuff that maybe is not as much, we double book.
Yeah.
And ultimately our goal, and this is a hard science to get, is the optimal number. I mean, it really depends on your actual show rate, but if you know what your net show rate is, for us, we know the optimal number of double bookings is about 40% of the calendar, right? After that, it's just too many live calls and there's diminishing returns. Below that, the closers aren't getting enough live calls. We also have segmented by source. So we know that, not weirdly, this makes sense, but if they come from the website, even if they originally came from an ad, but then they went to the website and then they booked, that's like we always single book it because it's an amazing show rate. We also know, similarly, if they even come from an ad, but then book through Instagram, whether it's through DM or link in bio, that's always a single book. And those are usually probably higher information people. So they've just done more research before they booked. I don't care what the reason is. I just know that's the reason. I just know that they do show higher. So those are all single booked. And a lot of times I think 100K a month are also plus people are single booked. YouTube people, single booked. But then a lot of other people, depending on what they put, whether they confirm, don't confirm, a bunch of other data points you can aggregate together, might be single booked or might be double booked.
Correct.
Right. So that's the whole, like, if you really want to have a fine-tuned sales ops system, you have to have that all in place. And I know you're not going to be nice enough to say it, but Saleskick basically does that it essentially does all of that in a software that's pretty cheap, way cheaper than you could do to build a sales ops department. So you can go to saleskick.com.
Saleskick.com.
If you want to check that out.
Thank you for the plug, sir.
Yeah. You're not going to plug it, so I had to plug it.
Well, I appreciate it. On the note of data points that correlate to show rate too, one thing that's really interesting, because we obviously there's some companies that do this now. We're one of those companies that has the financial data piece. And we've seen that by and large, credit score can directly correlate to show rates.
Yeah.
So, which kind of makes sense if you think about it, like it's a level of responsibility and all that. So just easy trend to remember is anything 700 above, significantly higher show rates than anything below 700.
There's another data point you can factor in.
Exactly.
And you can also like kind of combine, and it's almost like, you know how an audience targeting with Facebook, this is getting pretty advanced, but like, you know how you could do like, I want them to follow Tony Robbins and they have to follow Grant Cardone and they have to follow this person. It's almost the same. Like you could be like, they have to confirm, like, what's the show rate of people who confirm and put this in their application? And then those two things by themselves might not be above the threshold of single booking, but together could be. And again, like, you're not going to be able to do that on your own without like an actual software system to do it.
Correct.
So moving on, you had some questions for me.
I do. So we were talking yesterday at dinner, and I know a couple days ago, you had a dinner with some of the larger names in the space.
Dean Graziosi, Jeremy Biner, Pace Morby was there, John Madsen was there, Chandler Bolt was there, and Brandon Pulliam was there. I think I hit everybody. If I forgot somebody, I'm sorry.
Well, it's funny.
You're still important, I swear.
You were sharing some of the lessons that Dean was sharing with
He's
y'all.
just the man. Yeah. So, well, I mean, like I said yesterday, I can't, like, I'm going to say what he said, and it's going to sound super basic because I'm not Dean, and he just, the way he would frame it and say it, it was just dropping bombs. Like, they were just amazing. But, so the thing about him that is I respect so much is he's been in the industry, like, legitimately the direct response industry, coaching, helping people, whatever you want to say it, for 35 years, right? Yeah. Which it's like Dean and Tony, and then there's basically like there's a huge gap between whoever the next people are. So, he started in legitimately like infomercials with real estate. Then he's been through the auto webinar book funnel phase where you do the book to the auto webinar to the high ticket thing. He's done the challenges, the affiliate promotions. He's literally done everything, which one of the things he said that was really interesting is after all that experience, he's just seen over time that everybody likes to cling on to tactics, whether it's this AI thing or it's low ticket or it's high ticket or it's this funnel. And he was like, it's all bullshit. He's like, I've been doing this 35 years. There's never been a time where something like everything works. He's like, everything literally works. It's just what works for you. They're all tools. What's your problem? Find the right tool. And like, how proficient are you at using the tool? Yeah. So like everything has worked. And then things also just come back around again and again. Like now, like we were talking about, live webinars are kind of coming back.
Yeah.
I feel like the high ticket funnel was out. Then it was all low ticket. Now it's kind of like also back again. There's just so much stuff that just comes round and round and round. Another thing that he said was really interesting is, most people have campaigns, not a company.
Yeah.
And so he was talking about, when people, and you see this all the time, like, they come out of nowhere, they hit $1 million or $2 million a month or $5 million a month even. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, look at this person, they're amazing. It's like you have to weigh the person in a timeline and not just in, what's their revenue right now. Oh, they just came out of nowhere for the last 2 years. Because so many people, they might be able to get a great marketing campaign. Doesn't mean they can, number one, run a business. They can do it. They can have a great team. They can be a great leader. They can do right by their clients. And, that really resonates because I've just worked with so many clients over the years who skyrocket like crazy. And then boom, they're just gone. It's like, where did that person go? And sometimes even the fact that they skyrocketed so fast is like an indicate. I mean, they left as fast as they came up. Yeah. Because they can't build the infrastructure and everything behind it. So really, longevity in this game, I think, is the coolest thing and the thing that you have to respect most about people. And it's just funny. I mean, from his perspective, it makes sense. Like, he's been doing it 35 years. He's probably not even going to like recognize you as a legit person until you're in like, I don't even know, maybe at least year 5, but maybe even longer than that. I don't know what his barrier is. But, I've seen that so many times with clients. 8 figures, boom, gone. 8 figures, have a client revolt and FTC or whatever.
Well, and it's sad because it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, obviously you kind of blew up and you had a skyrocketing moment, and like you're still doing great. Like, you're running a good company. And there's examples of that too. Like, it doesn't have to be that way, but I think people just, they just focus on the wrong stuff. And I don't know if you have a take on, like, a deeper take on what causes that to happen.
Well, I think just they grow faster than their skill sets allow them to build the infrastructure to support the growth, right? So like and the other thing is that, well, so on the first thing, what I mean by that is they're good at marketing and sales. They grow really fast, but where they lack is systems, client fulfillment, leadership. They lack on back end, certain things like that. And so their clients just all like don't get results, or their team always leaves. Like team churn is something that just sets you back and back and back and back. The other aspect of that, remind me of the question, because I had a part 2.
Oh, well, just what do you think causes the?
Yeah, it's the skill sets. And then, oh man, I had something that was also really good. It'll come back to me.
Well, one I can add is just like failed partnerships.
Well, that is a huge one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like super 50-50.
Yeah.
A lot, especially with younger people.
Yeah.
You know, you just get in a partnership and it's just the wrong person. Expectations aren't set up from the beginning. Also, both people come into money really quickly, and then people change when they get money.
Yeah.
You know?
And then you set up the classic, like, we're going to be exactly 50-50 partners. So if anything happens, we're going to be stuck.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Cool, man. Yeah. Last question I thought it'd be kind of fun to end it with is, obviously, dude, you've been a part of so many different offers. We've worked on a ton together, obviously. And I'm just curious, like,
I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
I remember what it was.
What
I was like, I'm not going to let this go. The other thing, and I've noticed this a lot recently, it's always been going on. I've just always realized it. But the second thing, in terms of why people, they flutter out, is it has surprised me how many people in this space just care about adding zeros. See, I was telling you this yesterday.
Yeah.
Adding zeros and just trying to get to 5 million a month, 7 million a month, or whatever million a month that is the big number for them.
Yeah.
And I get it, because when you make a YouTube video and you're trying to like get people to understand why they should listen to you, you want to state I do the same shit. I get it. It works better in marketing if you do it. So you're kind of always trying to like, build your authority. That's part of the marketing message most of the time. But so many people chase the big revenue or cash collection figure. I mean, heck, a lot of people, they just report contracted, not collected, which if you're a corporation and you're working with enterprise businesses, that's fair because they legally will pay, or they know because they don't want to get a lawsuit.
Yeah.
But, if you're working with like small business owners doing 10 to 20, 30K a month, like I don't care that you lock them in for a 3-year contract. Like they're not going to pay that, right? Yeah. A lot of them are not going to pay. They're going to churn, right? But you're reporting revenue and not collected. So there's people who do that, but even if it is collected and they're reporting that, they just report that and they're like, oh, we're this big, we're this big, we're this big. And then behind the scenes, and I know this a lot because my advantage is, we have a recruiting company. So when there's mass exoduses in companies, I get the recruits and then, we just kind of hear what happens with the companies. Yeah. And a lot of them are just, oh yeah, there was no profit. So they cut the staff by 40%. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what you probably get for scaling so fast. But people just want to be big. They want to add the zeros. And that's another thing Dean said is like, he literally went through that phase at a certain time where, he got all the way up, I think, in one business to 200 million. This is way back in the real estate days. And he was like, I was making literally the same amount of money as I was making at 50. And at 50, I had less stress and I was getting my clients better results. So I've always been really vigilant about margins because you can't take revenue and deposit it into Chase. You can't take units. You can't Chase Bank they don't accept units, contracted, or your top line cash collected. They only accept profit. And I want to deposit into Chase Bank.
Yes.
So I've always been like, I want to grow the profit. And then sometimes I tell people, what our profit's been over the years. They're like, oh man, you're so good at the profit thing. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to run a business. I just want to make money.
Well, it's so funny because it's like this industry is so well known for being a cash flow business. And then people don't focus on cash flow.
Yes. And that's the other thing that he said too. He gave this spiel about gratitude, which sounds so basic. The way he did it though, I was like, I gotta be more grateful. But also just how there is just so few businesses where you can really, if you go into the tech space and you tell somebody like what your profit is or what your cash flow is in a business like this, they're always like, oh my God, like I wish I want to start a coaching business. And then our space is like, I want to start a tech business,
Yeah, it's so funny
and
about
both
that.
work obviously, and both are great. And tech is a bigger opportunity vehicle, clearly from market valuation and exits and generational wealth level. But I mean, you're delaying a lot of gratification with profits.
When I, a couple of years ago, I brought my business partner at Saleskick, who's from the technology SaaS space, to a boardroom event. Mm-hmm. And he left. He was like, dude, he literally, his exact words were, you guys found like this little weird matrix of the world where you can just make a bunch of money. That's his exact words. I was like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Welcome to info.
Running ads. And it's not even really info. I call it now, because I'm trying to think of like, what is our industry even called?
Yeah.
Because it's not really info. Info assumes that you're selling information.
Yeah, that's true.
And you got to have a really amazing, new, unique thing nobody's ever heard of. That AI, you can't prompt AI now. You can't go to Google to actually sell information. I think that's dead. I think what it really is we're in, and is it the high ticket space? Well, like, first of all, that just sounds terrible. It sounds like a scam. And then, it's like, oh, we're high. I just hate that name. And so I really would call our space the online services economy. Like, I think that's what it really is. Because if I think about who I work with the industry and what's the requirements for businesses that I work with outside of certain revenues and, they got to be ready for a salesperson, et cetera, is that they sell a service that is high priced, and generally they sell it online. Granted, I can also work with in-person people, but generally they're selling it online to anybody in the United States or potentially Canada, big 5 countries, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I really feel like it's the online services economy, because even if you sell B2C, like take somebody who's doing a health or a dating or whatever, they're not just selling them a course. They're selling them a lot of, like, you have to have the support, the coaching, all of that stuff anyways, which is a service.
Yeah.
So I really think it is the online services economy, not the high ticket space, which sounds like a scam. And certainly not info, because we're not even selling info anymore. People don't even want to go through modules.
I know.
It's like, I could probably remove we need the modules. I could probably remove them though, and we wouldn't make less sales. I'll tell you that. They don't want modules.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, last thing I had, just because I thought it'd be kind of fun to end with, I'm curious, and I'm going to share my story. I think it'll be funny. Is what's in all of yours marketing, different businesses, stuff we worked on together, yourself before getting into the online services economy? I know you had an agency. I think you did some e-com. I don't know.
Oh, geez.
I got literally everything you've ever done. What is the most embarrassing or dumbest marketing mistake that you've ever made?
So have I told you about the t-shirts? So, okay, I'll just tell you.
Yeah.
So as I was, I had like kind of 2 different eras as a sales rep. There was because I had an agency and I ran out of money. So my initial goal of getting into sales actually was to just get better at sales, make money so I could like start my agency again or start some other business that was going to make money. So like the first era, that was kind of the first era. So I was selling and trying to get better at sales. This is really my first sales job. After I went to my second sales job, I cut this out. Yeah. But I would like sell, and then if I had a no-show, I'd like work on my little online business, you know? And so, which is like, that's bad. Don't do that. Okay. But back then, the culture was different back then, because like you didn't like, it was all about inbound and we're not gonna follow up, or we're not gonna do outbound to get clients. It's more about like you booking in, and why should we work with you? Like that's kind of like was the meta in the space, which is also terrible. Like it just makes no sense. But anyways, I just was young and I was like not really fully bought into loving sales yet. So in my downtime, I was dabbling with other businesses, and I couldn't do an agency because you need to do sales calls and it's too much fulfillment. So I was like, I'm going to do e-commerce. So I bought this 30K mastermind, and in that there was like different tracks you could do. And I was like, I'm going to do the print on demand t-shirt track. Yeah. So the way it was taught is you create a Facebook page, and then you put out a bunch of like meme type of content to generate a following. And then once you have a little bit of a following, this is when Facebook pages like got a little bit more engagement, like fan pages, is you would poll the audience on like different shirt designs. So you would like reverse engineer the product before you release the product. So you would create them through 99 design competitions. Okay. And then you would pull a lot of the designs through the audience, and then you would feedback loop that into 99 designs. So like that took me like a whole month, and I'm like, I created the perfect t-shirt for my niche. And then so I launched this t-shirt to my Facebook audience. Nobody buys. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to run ads. Yeah. So I'm like running ads to my t-shirt. and nobody's buying. Like I spent like probably $1,000 or $2,000 on ads. Like nobody bought. Like I had like 3 add to carts.
Nice.
And so I'm like, God damn it, I'm gonna get a fucking sale out of one of these add to carts. And I was a sales guy, you know, so I was like, okay. I called all 3 add to carts, and I had to call them over the course of days. I finally got an answer from an old woman, and eventually, after about 30 minutes, I hard closed her into the t-shirt for $7. And so it wasn't, I wish I could say that was my first sale, but it wasn't my first sale. It was, I'd made many high ticket sales, but I was very proud of that t-shirt. And, you know,
Yeah, dude.
and what was funny is I ended up buying one of my own t-shirts because I was like, I want to see, maybe I'll wear this t-shirt. This thing, like, the print was like over here. Like, I'm not even kidding.
No,
Like,
dude.
it was legitimately fucked. It was like this old lady, I mean, the best she was doing with that t-shirt was wearing it to bed because you weren't going to wear that in public. It's like the logo was literally over here.
Yeah, the only thing that would make that story better would be if she charged back.
She didn't charge back.
Didn't charge back. That would be pretty funny. Yeah, mine was from the same thing, very, very beginning of my career. This was like my first month running YouTube ads ever. So it was like 2018, okay? And I had this like little, you know, it was actually, I think it was still live at that time, webinar I was doing. And what we would do is we'd rent email lists with like, you know, we're in the real estate niche, so it's pretty easy to find an email list in our local area. And we'd do it that way. And then joined Becker's mastermind back when he was doing his info mastermind before the SaaS one, and taught me YouTube ads. So I'm like doing YouTube ads. And the way he taught it was like when you get started, you do manual bidding. Like you get things rolling. It's like way back in the day. Don't do that today, obviously, but way back in the day. So I set things up, manual bidding. And dude, like it worked. Like we skyrocketed. We did like 100K the first month. I was like, oh, you know, I was like 21 or 20, and I was like, you know, I thought I was like a billionaire. And then like I was like BizOp, and it was like, you know, like the old school Alex Becker ads where it's like you're drawing on the screen.
Yeah. You're trying to draw on the screen.
Yeah, I was drawing on the screen. And so like the second month, you know, I was spending like maybe $1,000 a day, maybe on ads. And which was like a lot. I was like, holy shit, you know? Well, the second month, like maybe a third or half of my ads got rejected. You know, and that was the first time I ever went through that. So I'm just like panicking, you know, just like, oh my God. And I was in this mastermind with Becker. And so I was in the group and I was just like, guys, I need help. Please help me. And Becker, I mean, shout out to him, dude. Because now that I'm on this side, like I've been in the industry for a while, I'm like, I cannot believe you did this in the first place. But he got on a call with me, one-on-one on a Skype call. This was like pre-Zoom. Skype call, dude. Gets on with me. We're on for 5 minutes. And he goes, yeah, pull up your ad account. He's like, okay, where do you have your pixel set up? And I go, pixel. And I don't have the pixel set up. He goes, what the fuck are you doing, dude? And just for like the entire 5 minutes was just him cursing me out, calling me stupid. And he's like, I'm not even going to fucking help you. You can figure it out. Just ended the call.
No way.
Yes. And I was like, I needed to hear that, dude. I was like, that was pretty bad.
Wow. Did you ever tell him that later on?
Well, dude, I worked with him for a long time, and what I realized was A, I needed to hear that because I was being an idiot, and B, he gives direct feedback. So, you know, I saw him not to that extreme because it was one-on-one with my call, but on group calls back, like later on when he had Iron, he would do group calls and people would ask like stupid questions. He'd literally just be like, that was a stupid fucking question. And I was like, let's go, dude.
I was in Iron. We were all in Iron, man.
Yeah.
Iron was great.
It was.
Yep. Cool.
So-
All right. That's a wrap. Saleskick.com if you guys want to check out
Yes.
the best show rate system in the world.
Brand new form of booking system just released.
All right.
So-
We'll see you guys. If you enjoyed this podcast, you're also probably going to like this podcast I also did recently that you can check out by clicking the screen right here.